Hey everyone. There we go. I'm going to give Facebook a second to let everyone know that I'm live. Hello. It's been a little while since I've been here on the page. I'm hoping I have comments. I'm hoping we don't have any issues because I'm here at the office today. Really good internet here at the office. So, Colin, you're pulling off of my internet though. I will let you know that. All right, we've got some viewers. Okay. For those that I have a membership group, and I do lessons twice a month, and I have had some hellacious internet issues with the last couple of, well, at least the last live lesson that I taught. So I don't know, like I keep watching my stream health and stuff like that. I still don't know if I have any comments. There we go. Linda says hello. Yes, I have comments. My stream health looks all right. So hopefully we'll get through this today with no issues. Stephanie is here. Hello. Hi, Dora. All right, so I am Morgan, owner of Ink Goddess Creations. I know that there is a fun glare because of my glasses. It's a learning process here at the office. I'll try and keep them like that because if I don't have my glasses, I can't read the stuff for y'all. Hi, Kat. All right. If you've never been here before, what I do, at least for the Sabbats, I come on. I'm going to talk to you all about the Sabbat coming up, different ways that you can practice it. We're going to try without the glasses. Different ways you can practice it, different types of magic spells, things like that that you can do for the Sabbat, the correspondences, all that good stuff. So you can take all of this information and use it in your own way to celebrate the Sabbat. So I do pause for comments, questions as I'm going along. So if you do have them, then pop them up here in the live. And if you're watching this on replay, let me know in the comments so that I know who watches on replays. Okay? So yeah, again, I'm Morgan, owner of Ink Goddess Creations. This will be, you won't be here longer than an hour. And of course the video will go up again. So if you miss some of it, you can always catch it on the replay. All right. So I'm here today talking about Beltane. Beltane technically starts tonight. So it's one of those festivals that starts at sundown, and that's when the bonfires were lit. That is when the celebration really started, and you celebrate all night until the dawn, and then you continue to celebrate tomorrow until sundown. Okay, so it technically starts April 30th at sundown and goes until May 1st at sundown. It's primarily a Celtic celebration, so that's kind of where it originated, and that's where a lot of the information that we have comes from, and a lot of the celebration and the practices and things that people did come from Celtic origins. So that is what I'm here talking about today. All right, hold on. Today, yes, we'll be going over information, correspondences, and practices. All right. So Beltane's energy is hot. Beltane's energy is fiery. It is sexual. It is motivational. It is fun. It is passionate. That is what Beltane is all about. In my podcast episode this week, my podcast is called Busy, Gritty, Inked, and Witchy. You can also just search for Busy Witch podcast and it'll come up. But I focused specifically on the sexual aspect of Beltane and sexual energy and why that is so important as a magical person to really be connected to your sexuality and how to awaken that at Beltane. So if you have about 24 minutes after this, you can head over to my podcast, which you can listen on our website, which is inkgoddesscreations.com. And then if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see it's a little cartoon version of me. But you can actually dive more into the sexuality of Beltane, if that's something that interests you. But Beltane, that is Beltane's energy. It is hot, it is fiery, it is passionate, it is motivational. Okay, so that's the energy you want to tap into to help you manifest your dreams, your desires, put a boost of energy, a burst of energy towards your magic, fertility, all kinds of stuff, abundance. So I do like to recap the energetic wheel of the year. Okay, so I personally work with the energy of the wheel of the year on like a big grand scale. And the wheel of the year starts with Samhain, which is Halloween, and that's basically the Celtic New Year for witches. So you're basically setting your New Year's intentions, and that's what you're doing for Samhain. Okay, then we move from Samhain into Yule, which is in December, and that's when you're going to dive down inside of yourself to make sure that your intentions are pure and what you want to do can be accomplished. Okay, then we move on to Imbolc, which is February 1st and 2nd. That's when you're going to start lighting your fires internally for those things that you want to get done. And then you move to Ostara, which is March 20th. That's when you plant your seeds of action. So that's what we just got done doing last month. Okay. Then we move to Beltane, which is when you're going to add that fire and that passion to your intentions. Moving forward is summer solstice, which is like June 20th, 21st, 22nd. That's when you're going to add a lot of that last burst of hot, fiery, motivational energy. Then it's Lammas, which is August 1st, and you begin to reap the benefits and the harvest of all of the work that you've done for the whole year. And then for Mabon, which is September 20th, 21st, 22nd, you really harvest and you prepare for winter. And then that leads us into Samhain, and so it's a nice little wheel of the year. It's a circle. And energetically, that's how to work with the wheel of the year as a whole. Okay, so like for like big magical purposes, or you can tap into the energy that's around you at the moment and use that, and apply it to whatever intentions you have for them. All right, so let me catch up on comments. A lot of people. Hello. Lindsay, Kay, Louise, Tammy, and Shattuck. I'm hoping I pronounced that correctly. Hello. And yes, Tammy, I will be celebrating Beltane. Yes. I usually do a very busy witch. I actually did my ritual earlier so that I could, because I record my ritual for our membership group, Ink Spirit. So I record my ritual to give to them as like an instructional video. So I've done a little bit of one, and I'll be really having fun this weekend. So. All right, so easy correspondences. Now, where am I getting my information? First of all, I'm a witch of over 20 years, so some of it is just kind of like in there. But I did create, so this is our Beltane expansion pack for our eclectic witch deck. If you are familiar with us and our business, these are exclusive to us, the eclectic witch deck. We do have a starter deck as well as expansions for every Sabbat and a few other expansions. Another one might be coming tomorrow. Tomorrow is our huge launch for the month, our product launch for the month at 9 a.m. Pacific time, and then our live gemstone sale is here on Facebook at 10 a.m. Pacific time. But this is the Beltane expansion. So it just gives you, there's Beltane, and I'm going to go over the cards here. Like as I go over them today, I'll show you the cards. Okay, so easy correspondences for Beltane. The first is like the energy, the beliefs, everything that kind of goes into Beltane. It celebrates the sacred union of the May Queen and May King, or divine feminine and divine masculine energy. So they come together in the sacred rite. Yes, I am talking about sex. And they bless the land with fertile lands. They bless all the people with fertility. They bless everyone with abundance. And it is through this union that's where the energies of fertility and abundance and growth and everything come from. And then there's fires of motivation. So you're really going to be tapping into that fiery energy. This is technically the Celtic beginning of summer. Okay, so this is like the spark of summer coming forward. And so that's where you're going to take that spark of motivation and that spark of energy and use it and apply it to your own magic, your own intentions. Okay. The colors are green, so you have to think lush, plant life, all of that. Red for fire, so any kind of fire. Red, orange, yellow. Pink and white. Of course, pink for love, because there's a lot of love going on. And then white, generally speaking, is for the purity kind of what's going on, and just the purity of the growth and everything around. Symbols for Beltane, like common things that you see to represent Beltane, are a bonfire, a maypole. Are y'all familiar with a maypole? It's a pole, and then it's got ribbons, and the people dance around with the ribbons and weave the ribbons. And as you weave the ribbons, there's a flower ring at the top that comes down, and it simulates the great rite or the sacred rite. Fairies, brooms, because a lot of hand fastings happen at Beltane and they jump the broom. Ribbons, flowers, plant growth, and the green man. So these are some very common symbols of Beltane. Let me see. Teresa is here. Hello. Ooh. Hold on. Deborah, thank you. It is not, Linda asked if it's a second Beltane info card pack. It's not a Beltane one. No, we started doing the seasonal magic. So we did a fall one, and now there's a spring one. No, we did a fall and a winter. And now, no, we didn't do a fall one. It was like a spooky, it was almost a Halloween one. So it was like the creatures of the night. But then we started with the winter. So we did a winter magic. So now we have to do a spring magic. Okay. So, that's where, like, Beltane, that's kind of the gist of that card. Herbs and oils associated with Beltane. And these, of course, are just a few. So we do have the two cards, oils and herbs. So for herbs and incense, bluebell, which is associated with abundance, fairy magic. Daisies are for attraction and fairy blessings and creativity. Lilac for dream work, rebirth, and community. Meadowsweet for divination, love, and peace. Mushrooms for awareness, omens, and purification. Primrose for beginnings, blessings, and inner peace. Gotta make sure I keep them together. And then for oils and also herbs, fennel for fertility, the home, and protection. Juniper for happiness, transformation, and divination. Mustard for purification, passion, and healing. Olive is good for harmony, morality, and renewal. Palm for opportunities, peace, and power. And walnut for change, inspiration, and wishes. Okay? So those are just some of the herbs and oils that are associated with Beltane in this time of year. All right. Gemstones. That's another card. Amazonite is good for balance, growth, and inspiration. Green jasper for compassion, fertility, and clairvoyance. Jade for abundance, well-being, and protection. Sapphire for dream work, beginnings, and wisdom. Tree agate for agriculture, truth, and wealth. And then zoisite for confidence, optimism, and psychic abilities. All right. So those are some good ones. I also work with fluorite a lot, period. But especially for fairy magic. So we'll get into a little bit of fairy magic, just kind of what it is. And I personally use fluorite for fairies. So food. Y'all know I'm a kitchen witch. Okay, so I love talking about food and at least giving you a few ways. Because even as I'm a busy witch, I'm a busy kitchen witch. And so sometimes it's running to the grocery store, which will probably happen this weekend. And grabbing some foods that are associated with Beltane, making a really nice meal, and that's how my family is going. That's one of the ways my family is going to celebrate Beltane. So there's no shame if you don't cook. run to the grocery store and grab some stuff, because for Beltane, it's super easy, okay? For Beltane, you're looking at fresh vegetables, fresh fruits as well. Get what's in season, make yourself a fruit salad, make yourself a vegetable salad, or like little vegetable kebabs maybe, like for the grill. Because there is a bountiful harvest of fresh fruits and vegetables, and it is a perfect way to really resonate and tap into Beltane's energy, okay? Honey. Make foods and drinks with fresh local honey to add some sweetness and sun energy to your Beltane celebration. Sparkling fruit punch or wine. Beltane is all about celebration, so sparkling punches or wine with strawberries and other seasonal fruits floating in them, perfect. And spicy foods. Adding spices such as chili powder, ginger, cayenne, and cinnamon to your dishes will add that fiery Beltane energy to whatever. Yeah. So actually, if you were to make a fruit salad, drizzle it with honey, pop some cinnamon on it, that's going to be some good stuff right there. All right. Let me see if I have any questions, comments right now. Alex says, love your input and information. Thanks for the info and invite. You're welcome. Melissa is here. Hello. Yes. Okay. So there are some animals associated with Beltane as well. Another card. The cow represents nurturing energy, Mother Earth connection. A goat for rebirth and beginnings. The ladybug for happiness and wishes. Praying mantis for female warrior energy and cycles. The toad for opportunity and magic. And the worm for agriculture and obstacles. So, those are some animals for Beltane. Deities. All right, so this is a good one. I do have some goddesses and some gods that are associated with Beltane. Generally speaking, any goddesses or gods this time of year are celebrated because they're associated with fertility, celebration, music. The goddess is in her maiden form, and technically, or for some Wiccan aspects, she actually gets pregnant during Beltane, during the sacred rite. She gets pregnant with the god. So maiden goddesses are also honored this time of year. So for goddesses, that's Blodeuwedd. That's a mouthful. Flora, she is the Welsh goddess of spring and the queen of May. There's Flora, who's the Roman goddess of flowers and spring. Freya, the Norse goddess of love and fertility. Hera is the Greek goddess of marriage and family. Wow. I'm going to butcher this and I apologize. Maba, Moana, Wersa? Yep. Mbaba, Moana, Wersa. This is Zulu fertility goddess and harvest, of harvest and beer. So, very difficult name to pronounce, but right there, fertility goddess of harvest and beer. Hell yeah. The Sheila Nagig, who's the Celtic fertility goddess, and if y'all know me, I can't pronounce anything. Aztec fertility goddess, that would be Zacaquetzal. Doesn't roll off my tongue very well. All right, gods of Beltane again are going to be fertility, music, and celebration. So we have Bacchus, the Roman god of fertility and wine. And that's who's depicted there. Belenus, who's the Greek sun god. Kerninos, Celtic horn god of fertility and nature. Dionysus, the Greek god of fertility and wine. Kokopelli, the Hopi god of fertility. And Priapus, who is the Greek god of fertility. So yeah. Woo! I had some fun ones on there this time. All right. Where am I now? All right. So I am at chakras. So every one of these lives that I do, I personally do work with the chakras, and I have always been able to equate one of the Sabbats with a particular chakra or with a couple of chakras. It's not really information. It's just based on my own practice and kind of what I've put together over the last 20 years of being a witch. So it's you can research it. You know, but it is based on my own practice. So I do like to share the information. I always love to share new information with people. So this is based on my own personal, just having worked with, you know, the Sabbats for 20 years and the chakras for 20 years. Okay. So for me, there's two chakras associated with Beltane. The first, definitely 100%, is your sacral chakra. That is your, it's right above your root. So if your root is at your tailbone, the sacral chakra is where your sexual organs are. Okay, so that is the center of your sexuality, your creativity, and it is definitely part of Beltane. Okay, but for me, you have that power center, you have that center of your sexuality and of your creativity. But if you do not know how to express that, then this just kind of plays dead. So to me, that's what Beltane is about. Beltane is about building up that fiery energy, you know, in your core, in your center, in your sexual organs, in that area, and really building it up, and then being able to healthily express it. Okay, being able to express it in a healthy manner. All right. So for me, Beltane actually acts as a bridge between your sacral chakra and your throat chakra. Okay, because without a healthy way to express your creativity, to express your sexuality, then you can build and build and build and build. But if you don't have an outlet, there's not a lot of reason to build the energy down there. Okay. All right. So that was my overview. Let me see what my actual notes said. Okay. So during Beltane, explore what you create, but also how do you express this creativity. So you can build up that creative energy in your sacral chakra, but you need to figure out how you're going to let it out. You need to figure out how you're going to express your creativity. And the same thing applies to your sexuality. So take an honest look at your views on sexuality and ask yourself, does how I view sexuality, does that align with how I express my sexuality? Okay. And if they don't align, then you need to find out where that misalignment is and how can you work it, and how can you create an alignment between what you're feeling sexually and what you're expressing sexually. Okay. If you build up all of that energy, all of that creative energy, all of that sexual energy, and you don't have a way to express it, it will just be pent up in you, and then that leads to like frustration. So all right, so in order to get your sacral chakra moving and to activate it during Beltane, some really easy ways are working with some orange gemstones, such as carnelian, fire agate, fire quartz, and orange calcite. You can also work with orange and spicy foods and herbs. Okay, so cinnamon, clove, chili powder, cayenne pepper, and then oranges, orange peppers. You can work with the herb calendula, and orange peel are really easy ways to activate your sacral chakra. Okay, to activate your throat chakra and then to create that bridge between the two, work with blue gemstones like sodalite, blue lace agate, lapis, Larimar, blue goldstone. And there's blue foods. We all came together as a shop on this one with Google and everything. We came up, we were like, how many blue foods on there? There's blueberries. That's a given. Blackberries also count. And then for herbs, there's cornflower. Lavender does count as a throat chakra activator. And then blue corn. So if you eat some blue corn tortilla chips, that's another thing. That's about it. I mean, grapes, currants, things like that can technically do the duty as well. I don't think artificially. My daughter popped up and they were saying blue raspberry. It's like, I don't think that's a thing. Like, just something colored blue. I don't think that quite works. But if you have cornflower, like cornflower herb, it's really gorgeous too, and you can sprinkle it on things. Edible flowers too. So this is a really good time. I know at one of our hoity-toity health food stores, they have edible flowers in the fridge section, in like the produce section. And I have seen some gorgeous cakes made with like edible flowers put on top. That is a great way to not only celebrate Beltane, but also if you can find the purple and blue edible flowers, that'll help with your throat chakra as well. And you can bake them into a cake or you can put them on top. Yeah. All right. Let me catch up. I don't know if I have. Okay, y'all were trying to help me out. Shochi Ketzel. Thank you, Stephanie. Y'all know I cannot pronounce stuff to save my life. I most of my learning, and I think I went over this, I can't remember how many live videos ago. I get most of my knowledge from reading. So you should never make fun of a person that can't pronounce things, because it means they've never heard it and they've only come across it in reading. So, yeah. And it's stuff I try to remember to like go onto YouTube, and like if it's something that I know is coming up. We had a quartz one time that we were trying to sell in the shop, and to me it was amphibole quartz, but listening to Google and YouTube, I had to pull it up so many times. It's amphibole, but it killed me because it reads amphibole to me. So if I know I'm going to talk about it, I try to make sure I pull something up and listen to it, because I'm such a book nerd. Like, all of my information, or most of my information, comes from reading. So therefore there's no pronunciation guide when you read. So yeah. Christy says, my inspiration tonight was wild rice with blueberries, maple syrup, red bell pepper, onions, and celery. That sounds delicious. I love that. Awesome. All right, so practices. All right, so these are things you can do to celebrate Beltane. All right, and I know that's what y'all are here for. The first one is fire. So candle magic, bonfire magic, fire. So like I said at the beginning, the way that they used to celebrate it was they would start a bonfire at night at sundown, and then they would celebrate around the bonfire all night until morning. So actually a lot of the articles I was reading for research for this were saying just stay up all night. That's another way to celebrate Beltane. And I was like, oh, I could try, but I'm an old lady. I'm asleep by like 11 at the latest. But definitely candle magic, bonfire magic. If you decide to dive into it more and find out about like jumping a bonfire, things like that, just please, and even with candle magic, practice it safely. Don't leave stuff unattended, burning overnight while you go to sleep, okay? Fairy magic. So this is actually one of the cards in the Beltane deck, which is fairy magic. Fairy magic is the practice of calling upon members of the fairy realm for help with your magical endeavors. Fairies can be called upon for spells involving healing, environmental magic, abundance, home protection, adding fun, light energy to a space, and more. Each type of fairy folk has their own preferences as far as how to call upon them, offerings to give, types of magic they help with, etc. In general, it is best to ask the fae for their help rather than command them. And always give them an offering such as fresh fruit, milk, shiny objects, cakes, etc. for their help. Setting up a small fairy garden in your garden is a great way to invite fairies to your home. Okay? So I said before, and I just had we had a post go up on Instagram earlier with some great little objects you can use to set up a little fairy garden or fairy altar. I personally have always used fluorite. If you have, where's my little bowl? it might be somewhere else. There's a little bowl right here that sits right here that's full of paper clips and broken gemstones, coins, shiny silver thingies, because the Fae like to run off with things. The fairies like to run off with your keys, and they like to run off with important things that you need. So if you give them, yeah, it's probably over on the picture taking station. If you give them a little bowl full of shiny objects, set it out. It's kind of like an offering, like, hey, can you give me back my keys? Here are some shiny paper clips for you. The Fae are notorious little thieves and little sneaky things. So, that's how you practice fairy magic. Fairy gardens are adorable. Gives them a safe place to interact with your environment and kind of break the divide between the two realms. Okay. Another way to practice, of course, is the maypole with the flower ring at the top, which simulates the sacred rite between divine feminine and divine masculine. If you look up maypole, generally speaking, they're very tall and they have ribbons that come off of them, and then everyone grabs one ribbon and then they dance around the maypole holding their ribbon and weaving in and out of one another, so that the ribbons wrap around the maypole as they get closer, and at the top is a ring of flowers that falls down the maypole. So it's celebrating, it's sexual in nature. It's highly representative of the sacred rite, but it does bless the lands, things like that. And I have seen little mini maypoles be made before. So divination. This is another one that a lot of people don't realize. Okay, so there's two types. We are at the exact opposite of Samhain. All right, and Samhain, the veil is very thin. So for Beltane, the veil is also very thin. The veil between the worlds is very thin. That is why fairy magic is so heavily practiced during Beltane, because the veil between our world and the fairy realm is very thin. Okay, so because this veil is thin, it is a great time for divination. It is a great time for trying to contact those in other worlds, or contact those on the other side. Beltane is another open window. Okay, another open window. This time, though, whereas the veil at Samhain is mostly between our world and the world of the dead, the one at Beltane is a little bit more playful. Okay, so the veil is going to be thin between our realm and the fairy realm, or our realm and the animal realm, and so it's more stuff like that, like different realms versus us and those who have passed over. But that veil is still thin. Okay, so the veil between worlds is thin. You can do divination, spirit contact, meditate, and try to get messages from your higher self, your spirit guides. All of this is going to be thinner right now. The veil between all of those boundaries are going to be thinner. Okay. Another thing that is practiced during Beltane are hand fastings. Basically, that's a pagan marriage, and it lasts for a year and a day. There's broom jumping involved. There's nodding involved. If you decide that you want to have a hand fasting, there's so much information. I highly recommend that you research it yourself. Another way to celebrate Beltane is by having sex. Yep. Like I said, my podcast, I talk a lot about that. If you head over there, but it doesn't have to be with a partner. It can be solo. So keep that in mind, but you're building up that energy and then direct it. As you build up that energy, have a magical intention in mind as you're building up that energy during sex. Have a magical intention, or a goal, or something you want to add passionate, fiery energy to. Have that in mind, build up that energy, and when you get there, just direct it. All right. Another thing that is adorable, I love seeing this, So you take ribbons and you write wishes on your ribbons. So wishes, intentions, things like that. And then you take the ribbons and tie them onto the branches of a tree. Okay, so these are, I saw this in England when we visited the Chalice Well Garden. Sorry, I drew a blank. It's Friday. There was one whole tree in the Chalice Well Garden that was covered in ribbon, and they even gave you little ribbons there, and you could write your wishes, write your intentions onto it, and tie it onto a tree. But this is a really fun one to do with kids. So if you have kids and you want to incorporate them into celebrating Beltane and introduce them to celebrating Beltane, having them write their little, or draw pictures or something, but have them writing ribbons on, or messages on ribbons, their wishes and everything, and then just tying them to the tree branches is great. And what ends up happening, if you're like, oh well, what if it flies off, or what if it, that's kind of the idea behind it. Generally speaking as well, birds are going to pick up the ribbons and use them for nests. So you don't really have to worry about, any kind of environmental impact, because generally speaking, that's what ends up happening with the ribbons is they do go on to make a nest for birds. But it is thought that they're carried away by the fairies, things like that. So that's what you can tell your kids if you want a way to celebrate Beltane with your children. You can make flower rings and flower crowns to wear. You can create May baskets. Now, back in the day, May baskets were just baskets full of, and I quote, flowers and goodwill. And basically what you would do is you would fill this basket with fresh cut flowers and your goodwill, and you would take it to those who were less fortunate. So you would take it to elderly or someone who's sick or, bedridden and can't come to the Beltane celebration. Okay. There is a modern day, as soon as I was reading this, when I was doing my research, I thought that a modern day equivalent of this would be care packages. So you could assemble care packages and donate them to homeless shelters. You can donate them to elderly homes, or, a care package to mail to, a kid that's away at college, or, things like that. But these are ways these are kind of my ideas for modern day celebrating Beltane. If you wanted to make May baskets, just make them a little bit more modern. Put some, kits together for the homeless, put some, get well baskets together for those who may not be doing, too well emotionally or physically, or, putting stuff together for like elderly homes. All right. And gardening. It is still a time of gardening. It is still a celebration. Beltane is still a celebration of life, fertility, growth. So tending to your garden is also a great practice for Beltane. All right. The types of spells and magic that you can do during Beltane, and I'm not going to give you specific spells. These are just, generic ideas for spells that you could perform. It's up to you to create the spell or research it. Fertility spells are done this time of year. Money drawing spells, and spells for passion. If you know me and you know my business, I am a fluffy bunny. I do not believe in any type of controlling magic, commanding, controlling magic. So I do not believe in actual love spells directed at another person. But if you are just ready, if you're single and you are ready for someone in your life, not someone specific, but if you are ready for someone in your life, then you can do a love opening spell, to open yourself to the flowing energy of love, and be sure to put something in there about, that you need the person to be in your greater good, so that you don't attract, like an abusive relationship or something like that. So those are the type of love spells that I advise doing, not love spells directed specifically at a person. But you can do things to increase some passion in your life, whatever that may be. And passion doesn't have to be for a person. Passion can be for a cause. Passion can be for your job. Passion can be for your life in general. Like you just want to live life more emotionally, more like complete and just fully. So these are, passion does not have to mean passion for a person or sexual passion or lust or anything like that. Passion can just be, you can have passion for anything. You can be a writer, an artist. These are things that you're going to have passion for. So if you want to increase that and have a boost in that type of passionate energy, you can do spells for that during Beltane as well. That's what I have for y'all today. Let me just double check comments, questions. I don't have any. If you have any comments or questions, pop them up now into the chat and I will answer them before I get off. Busy witch practices too. I'm really focusing a lot in my messaging and in my teachings right now on busy witch magic. That's what my podcast is all about. So I give you busy witch tips over there, ways to practice magic, you know, because we don't always have a lot of time to sit down and do like a full-blown ritual for an hour or 2 hours, right? So busy witch practices for Beltane, of course, are just candle magic. So lighting your intention or lighting candles. When you do perform easy candle magic, I don't have any mini candles right here, but I'll show you. You always want to take a candle, preferably a mini candle or a tea light because they burn quicker. There we go. Tea light. Hold it in your dominant hand. Charge it with your energy, your intention, and then light it. Okay, so you want to hold it in whatever hand you write with. That is the quickest way to perform candle magic. I definitely recommend food. Food is a very easy way to connect with any type of energy. So like I said, fresh fruits, vegetables, honey, and spices are really good for this weekend. And so candle magic, food, and if they're gemstones. Gemstones are super easy to work with. So any kind of fiery gemstones for this weekend, or gemstones that have to do with growth. So tree agate, jade, green jasper, things like that that have to do with abundance. These are just super easy ways for you to start practicing. And even if it's just your intention. So setting your intentions tonight, these are things I want to put my energy towards. Like look at your life, see where the energy needs to move, see where the energy could be stagnant, or see what it is that you want to do and what makes you passionate. And that's where you want to put your energy, because that's going to mean you're going to enjoy life more if you're doing things that make you happy and doing things that you're passionate about on a more regular basis. That's the key to living life. Okay, so look at your life, figure out where there's some stagnant energy that needs to move. Figure out where your passion and your energies lie, and to where you can that's where you can direct your energy. Or see what needs a burst of, just like maybe you kind of had these intentions and then kind of started going downhill. What needs that pop of passionate energy? Just set your intentions, and you can do that starting tonight into tomorrow. So these are really super easy ways to celebrate Beltane and ways to work with the energy that's just kind of out there right now, right? All right, Christy says, I'm doing my Beltane altar as you speak. Yay! And Linda said, thank you for all the good info. I was reading earlier about the wishes on a tree practice, and they suggested using biodegradable cloth or going back a month later to remove the cloth to reduce potential impact. That's a good point. It is. I've always seen the ribbons, especially at the garden in Glastonbury, England. There was trees and stuff, but the bigger trees you could see over to the side, all of the nests had little ribbons in them, and I always was like, that's so cute. So, all right. If you all don't have any more questions or comments, because I've kind of rambled on just a little, then I will let you all go. If you are watching this on replay, or if something pops into your head, you can still leave a comment or a question, and I will keep up with the thread and make sure that I can answer anything that comes across. It's just not going to be live. You don't get an answer right this moment, you know. But I hope you all start celebrating tonight. If nothing else, just let go. Go with the flow of energy. Tap into that. Play some music. Dance. Have your candles lit. And just build up that passionate, fiery energy and direct it where you need it in your life. Things where it's stagnant or where you just need that burst of fiery energy. Okay? Yeah, so I hope you all have an amazing Beltane, and thank you for joining me today. Bye.